Inside Abode, ladies and gentlemen. How are y'all doing? I'm your host, Dave Jones. We have a really special guest today. Again, I mean, I say that every week, but that's because all of our guests are special on this show. But I'm really excited to get into this conversation. This is a person who I have met actually in 2022 in Missoula, Montana. And we went out to dinner before I went to go do a speaking engagement. And it was just such an enlightening conversation, and I'm really excited to get him on the podcast. This has been a year in the making, so I'm really I'm excited for the audience. I'm excited for y'all to learn a little bit more about my guest today. And my guest is Jim Bachand. Did I say that last name right? I always got to ask that question.
It's a tough one, Dave. Yeah, Bachand. It's French.
Bachand. I always say Bachand.
Okay.
So Jim Bachand. So thank you for joining today. I know you're a busy guy, and it's just I'm really fortunate. I think we're really fortunate to have you on the podcast today. How you doing?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, super excited to be here. I mutual respect to having a great dinner that one night and just engaging conversation. So I look forward to this opportunity. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no. And so can you tell people a little bit about what you do and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Love to. What I do for my work job during the day, I am the CEO of the Missoula Organization of Realtors, which is in Missoula, Montana. That's in the Western Rockies, the beautiful part of the country, I think, where all the big mountains are. I happened to do my undergraduate in Missoula many years ago, and had great opportunity to leave here, live in Canada for a while, and then lived in Seattle in the Pacific Northwest, kind of where you reside now. And then also had an opportunity to go to Southern California. And banking, financial services was really my background. And just several years ago, came back to Missoula and took this opportunity. That's what I do during the day. But, after hours, I think is equally important. And, on a very national podcast, I guess have to convince I'm one of those addicts in that field called pickleball. I think most of us are getting comfortable talking about being the addict when it comes to pickleball.
That's funny. So you mentioned your financial background, and I'm interested. Like when we chatted, I was interested in your the time frame. What time frame were you in there? And were you there in the like 08, 09 time frame?
Yeah, I good or bad, call it what it was. Amazing learning. I worked for one of the large financial institutions during the mortgage crisis of 08. I originally was at Washington Mutual, and if being from the Northwest, WAMU well, and we faced our maker, as it were, in the 08, and then afterwards moved down to Bank of America and worked through some of the transactions related to Countrywide and cleaning up the mortgage mess. Yeah. So heavily involved in mortgages.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I'm fascinated in drawing that line because of what's happening right now. And do you see any parallels in terms of the way that the market is moving now versus back then?
Unfortunately, that crystal ball that I had in 08 kind of broke in 09. I wish I could say I wish I could predict the future. I don't think there's parallels. I think what we experienced in 08, it was very different than what we're experiencing now. I mean, we didn't have a pandemic. So much of some of the economic indicators right now are what's happened from the last 3 years. And as we begin to look forward, I think probably the Zoom concept, the Zoom cities, Missoula was one of those that saw an influx of folks from that perspective. So as a result of that, we have more of a supply issue in housing than we did 3 years ago. But we're already on a trajectory 3 years ago to have a housing supply shortage. So that's not necessarily new for us. It's just slightly bigger. I remember when I was younger and got my first home, we had a mortgage that was 12%. So yes, 6% seems high, but not that high.
Right.
Half of what it was when I had a mortgage. I had, 3%. We kind of all got used to the comfort 3% mortgage. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think news economic reports of the last couple of days are good indications. And Powell had some comments earlier this week that implies that there might be some softening coming. So I think those are all hopeful things.
Yeah, no, I saw the markets definitely reacted to his response too. The S&P 500 and the crypto markets, and I follow all that stuff. It's just interesting how touchy he says one thing and all of a sudden things are up. It's just crazy.
I wish, don't you wish he had that control?
I know. It's nuts. So let's transition over to the housing market in Missoula. Like, what was the housing market like in 2022? I imagine it was like everyone else in the nation, where kind of the carpet was kind of being pulled out from under our feet at different times of the year. Was that similar in Missoula?
I would tend to describe it more of a slow and steady. I don't know that we ever necessarily saw a huge swing. I mean, I think that up until probably towards the end of Q2 of 2022, we began to see a slowing of things going beyond 100% of list down to right about 100%. And we've remained relatively steady. I think even neighboring markets a couple hundred miles away are seeing 98% of asking. So I don't know. We're not softening maybe as much as other markets, but we're seeing a little bit.
We it was interesting because when we looked at our numbers over the and maybe it could be just us being in our bubble, in terms of just our market. But yeah, we had a steep, a pretty, and this is over a course of 2 to 3 months, so it's not like I'm talking about 2 weeks or nothing like that, but still it was like a really steep, you had the rate hike, which impacted things. But then later on in the year, we had a really steep inventory increase. So like, for example, we started the year, when I look back in January, we were at like 0.2 weeks of inventory or something like that in our county. And now we're hovering around 2.6, 2.7, 2.8, up in that range. So it was a pretty steep climb in terms of inventory for us and sellers to get price too. So it's interesting.
Yeah,
different markets.
David, when you say 2 are you talking months or weeks?
2.8 months. I'm sorry, 2 months.
Yeah.
Of inventory.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's steep. Yeah, I mean, we were sitting 0.2 and probably jumped to average 0.4, 0.5,
wow.
And depending on price points, but nothing like you have. So interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, so like I just looked at it yesterday. Yeah, we're about 2. We're up in the high twos, 2.8, 2.7, depending on which chart you want. Yeah, we face some pretty sharp changes in our market for sure.
Yeah, I think the one thing that we've done that's been we continue to struggle, as probably your market does too, with affordable housing. And affordable is at various price points depending on the buyer, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. So what we tend to look at is just what's our market inventory for things, say, below 350 or 250 even. And we spent a lot of time this year as an association and as a community working with other community, private, public sector to figure out ways to accelerate and help improve things. And, just this last Monday, our city council did an emergency measure that took 21 items that were conditional in the permitting process and move them into just regular permitting. So we believe things like that, any community could explore that possibility, and that will help accelerate the cycle time in the build process or in renovation process or whatever. And in theory, those little tiny things will help improve the market supply.
100%. And I just think it's very important that the person, like someone in your position, even is just thinking about it. I think that like it starts there just with intention, right? And then, we do what we can to make little improvements along the way, I think. I mean, because I'm just really happy to hear that, because we're doing that same thing up here in Tacoma. We have a few different initiatives going on, and There's something going on even as we speak. I just learned about it actually yesterday. So there's always something in terms of affordability.
Yeah. I think when you came out here, we had just started this concept of, we call it the Attainability Committee. And it's basically a think tank of about 30 to 40 realtors and people in the build sector. And we just have an open forum on a regular basis, and anybody can come pitch an idea. And and we give feedback. And then, like this idea that just got approved by city council kind of started there.
I like that.
We have commissioners that come and pitch ideas, and they turn into actual, hopefully, tools in the toolbox that increase supply or improve affordability.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's cool. And I imagine that, because I believe we're coming back in the fall.
You are.
Yeah. So that's going to be really fun.
Yeah.
And I get to bring my wife too. I was just like, man, I get to, because I told her about our dinner, and I was like, man, I met Jim, and I really enjoyed his company. So that was a good.
Yeah. We're really excited to have you come back. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited to come back. I love Missoula. And so that said, about 2022, what are you looking forward to for 2023 for both, what you see for your market, what you see for your agents, what are you trying to bring to the association, and what are you thinking about?
Yeah, we just finished strategic planning at the association, and I think we continue to look at how do we as an association and agents, our members, continue to be leaders in the community and show up and connect that important, making your home and community together. I think that's super critical. Not really big overarching any, big shiny objects out there, but just stay the course, stay high on professionalism, making those connections and help lead the community and figure out ways to do supply. I sometimes incremental change can just be slow steps. It doesn't have to be the big bang stuff. And I think we're in that phase right now.
I agree. I joke, and because I'm coming at it from an owner's perspective, I'm being fully transparent. It's just like, all right, we just need to make sure that we keep doing the things. And I'm actually excited about in our market where we have more inventory. It allows us to show what our value proposition is as a company, because that's what we started out as. And then in the last 2 years, it felt like things were selling so fast and things were happening so fast that people felt like they could just come in and just do the work. And it's like, actually, this is kind of a simulation right now. This is not normal. You actually have to go out and be a really good realtor in this market. And I'm really excited for that for our people too, because we have I really like our people. So like in terms of just from where I sit and where we stand, it's more like, it's kind of the same thing where it's like, all right, 2023, let's buckle down. We know we got to do better. We know we have to be out in the mix a little bit more. We got to be out in our communities more. We just got to do more of the things that we're already doing. Just
right. Yeah. And then I think that whole showing up in the community, showing up as your authentic self and letting people know who you are and what you represent, that helps drive that professionalism and business mindset.
100%.
Yeah.
So and actually when I came down there's all kinds of stuff happening, and you talked about the affordability piece. Your association has had to administer over a hate speech issue recently. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. It's funny. I just was thinking about that earlier this week. And I'll tangent for a second and come back to the whole thing that was going on with our association. A rabbit hole. I can go down those really fast. I think about hate's been in the news a lot recently, unfortunately, right? Tragic shootings. And then there's good stuff that happens in the news. This week, U.S. Senate now is in making same-sex and interracial marriage acceptable across all states. And I think, wow, here we are. I mean, I don't know how many years later, same-sex is relatively new in terms of the life cycle of acceptance. But interracial marriage, I mean, that's how long have we had that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious, like, how do you feel about that? I mean, what was your reaction when you heard that?
Well, you just heard it. It's me just laughing. And I just laugh because I'm just like, I've been in one for 20 plus years,
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I laugh not because I'm laughing, because it's just, I laugh just, it's all parts. It's part pain. It's part joy. It's part elation. It's part, I don't know. It part disappointment, like, so it's a little bit of all the things,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
because I haven't been in a relation, interrelational relationship, I don't really see it that way, but at the same time I do. It's this weird dichotomy, if you will,
Yeah.
because I have to see it for what it is and how other people might view it or not accept it or accept it. But then I also, for me, it's just like, well, what's there? I don't know. I don't see it like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just how I
The other,
remember, so
yeah, that's the way it should be, right? Yeah.
right.
The other one that happened for me this week was the one this morning. And I was watching the news early this morning, and the FDA is now considering allowing gay men to give blood. And I don't know if you knew that it's
I did not
right.
know that that's
We have not been allowed to give blood since 1983
What?
because of the AIDS. Well, it was all tied back to HIV. And for me, that's been a really difficult thing. I'm an O negative, so I'm a universal donor, and my parents were in the medical field. So the importance of donating blood, my mom was O neg, and she donated, she was like 95. We had to eventually shut her off because we kept saying, you don't have that much more to give, so you got to stop. And for me, that's a big deal, because I just think part of giving back to the community and donating blood, and every time I see a blood drive, I'm like, oh, I'd love to give, but I can't. So and how that ties back to hate, I don't know. I guess it's one of those things that are barriers that prevents community from just accepting everybody.
Yeah, I think it ties back to hate speech, because we're talking about segments of people who are not allowed to do certain things, and then what it does is it allows us to see people as someone other than ourselves, like you're not human or something, like you can't do this human act because you're gay or you're black or you're white or you're purple, or like, I don't know, I think it's crazy. I think it allows people to, it's one of the steps to hate speech, I guess, if you will, because it segments off a group of people. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's go back a little bit. I'll come back to that original question. So your memory was right. There was a lawsuit that was filed against Missoula Organization of Realtors, MOR, and the National Association back in November of 21. And it was by a MOR member, Brandon Huber. And it was dismissed earlier in May. So right after you were here in May, it was dismissed of this year. But as a result of that dismissal in the civil court, the ethics hearing proceeded. It was postponed due to lawsuit, but then it proceeded, and a decision was rendered by MOR in the ethics hearing panel, and the decision's final.
Yep.
So just later in October, MOR requested that the court, in the lawsuit filed by Mr. Huber, enter a judgment in the case, and no appeal was filed by Mr. Huber and with the Montana Supreme Court. So as of just November 19th, less than a week ago, MOR believes that with legal support under Montana law, that the decision rendered in the suit became final and it cannot be appealed. So it's done.
Wow. Good for you guys. I didn't know that it was that recent. So
Yeah.
Well, I actually tweeted about this morning. I'm pretty active on Twitter, and people may like or not like what I say on there. None of it's, I don't think, is offensive, but I try to chew the fat a little bit and ask questions and poke at things. And one of the things I brought up this morning, because there's been a lot of on the Kyrie situation, within the black community, we've had a lot of conversations, and I've followed Kyrie for a long time. I'm a fan of his, actually, and I was highly disappointed. And I had to break it into categories as we were going through it, though, because I was like, okay, there's his behavior, there's the media response. I'm a both and guy, because there's multiple things that are true here, but everyone's kind of like, it's this and then this, and I'm like, okay, well, there's some things I'm not going to touch because I don't follow both religions, so I don't know the history. I'm not going to sit up in here and watch YouTube for 1 hour and say like, oh, okay, I know all the things about the context of these religions and whatnot. So, but one of the things I tweeted this morning was about when you're constantly having to administer conflict, if you show too much empathy, you're going to get cooked. If you show too little empathy, you're going to get cooked. If you showed too much you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's this fine balance, and you have to look at things from multiple perspectives. Even if you're in your heart, you believe, you know, or you believe one thing, but you can't bring that to these situations when you're advising, and most people don't understand that. You have to look at it objectively. So when I say things, I'm looking at it totally objectively. I'm not going in with my heart, because if I go with my heart, I'm going to get cooked. So I have to be a collector look at it and look at it from different angles. So, you know, I thought that was interesting. And does that kind of resonate with
oh my gosh,
how you have to go about things?
Yeah. You say cooked. I tend to think, I get cooked. I also think that you probably unhealthy behaviors, but you swallow it, you hold it down, you suppress the feelings because you've got to, because staying in center, staying neutral is critical so that both parties get heard and due process. I think so critical. And, you know, generally, if everybody on either side of anything in society were to try to stay more center and listen to both sides, we probably have a happier society, I think.
So.
But you know, at the same time, some days it's a bummer to have to swallow certain things. And, you know, I, for better or for worse, made a really concerted effort. I don't know how to say it in a politically right way, not suppress who I am, but probably was a little more closeted this last year than I probably normally am. Right?
Well, because, you know, it could be perceived a certain way, right? Because you're presiding on this thing that's a big deal, right? And I have to do the same thing. I have to put my blackness aside sometimes. When I look at things objectively, I have to put my blackness aside for a second, and then but that's also my frame of reference too at the same time. That's why it's fine balance. It's my frame of reference that I know is important in this decision-making process, but I also have to lose it in some shape or form, because I have to be fair, you know, and look at everything without the lens of Dave Jones and more about the lens of whatever I'm representing. Or I don't know, it's just a lot of people haven't been in that position before to do that a lot, and I respect you a great deal for doing that. So
and my hunch is you probably check yourself with your spouse, I mean, I know that I do with my spouse. It's, you know, you're constantly checking yourself with your friends and family to make sure that you're walking center if you can.
All the time. You know, and I wouldn't consider myself a centrist personally, but when I'm doing I mean, I'm just saying, like, I'm definitely, you know, like, something people be like, oh, he's whatever, and it's like, no, I'm just kind of, I think I use common sense and humanity as my guide, you know. And so wrong is wrong to me. Like, humanity, when it comes to humanity issues, I'm gonna be outspoken about them. And
maybe that's my definition of a centrist, so I don't know.
Well, I mean, that's mine too. It depends on what your definition is. So I appreciate you sharing, because I just respect your position, and I know that it was a tough year probably to make sure that you got that right. And so anyway, I'm really happy that you guys are through it. Now we can focus on the business,
right?
On making agents better, making it a better place to do business.
Agreed.
I recently learned about Missoula Midtown, so a little bit more on Missoula. What is it, and what is it setting out to do?
Yeah, I don't, it's funny, the word Midtown, I always wonder how many, do you have a Midtown in your, Portland? Does Portland have a Midtown?
Portland? I don't know. I'm not, Tacoma, we have.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Not really. I mean, I guess we have a downtown. I guess we don't really say the word Midtown.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we don't necessarily have an uptown. So Midtown in Missoula it's a huge swatch of our community. And where our office is located here is kind of the beginning of what we call Midtown. And then
Okay.
it goes all the way out. It includes a major hospital in the community. But we're going through this process of looking at how do we revitalize this area? How do we ensure connectivity? I mean, this community was developed in the 50s, 60s. Somebody on this podcast who's watching this is probably going to correct me on that, but generally that's how I think about it. And the problem is we have this major corridor highway that runs through it that divides Midtown, and crossing it, it's a 4-lane road that is almost impossible to cross. There are very few pedestrian crossways. So part of our big master planning that we're doing for this area is how do we improve connectivity for walkability, bikeability, transit? How do we get out to a neighboring community, what we call the Bitterroot Mountains, and ensure that people passing through can do that in a friendly manner?
Yeah.
So
that sounds a lot of like Tacoma. I'm sorry. Because we're doing a light rail system that connects different districts, and it's a project that's been going on for a while, but I'm really excited for it because when people visit, you can jump on the rail and go to different districts.
Yeah, I wish we could do that. I don't think we're going to get the rail system that you have in the Northwest. I mean, think about how impressive Seattle became by putting light rail in.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, phenomenal connectivity.
No, I think, we were just talking before this, and I went to Bozeman, and then I went to Missoula last year, but then we went to Bozeman to visit family, and I love Montana. I mean, the mount, just looking outside, it's so picturesque. I just love the openness. I love everything about Montana. And so, what's your favorite part about Missoula?
I've always, even back in the 80s, I've always felt like Missoula represents what a big Seattle is at a smaller scale. University town, so vibrant life, and you get to go outdoors and in 5-10 minutes be in the mountains, looking at the mountains every day. Access to rivers and downhill cross-country skiing, you name it. Mm-hmm. We're about the outdoors here, but getting that good feel. We've got great little, I'm a foodie, so good food life matters. I don't know. And no commute, right? That's the other huge thing that we find valuable is not having that commute time that Seattle or LA has.
Right. Traffic to you guys is waiting for what, 10 minutes, 15 minutes?
Yeah, we have one strip that people get really upset that it's a long wait, and I think it's 10 minutes, but yeah, it's not bad.
No, I understand though. I totally get it. I totally understand why people love Montana, because it's just, when I go there, it just feels just comfortable, in terms of the pace and all that, and just the beauty of the outdoors. I had one more mention of more for kids. As I was looking around at the Missoula Organization of Realtors site, I saw the More for Kids. Can you just give a quick plug on that, and what is that about?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's our nonprofit arm, been around for quite some time. And this year, it's funny because this year is going to be one of those landmark years for us. I think we're targeted to probably break 100,000 in donations, and all of those funds go right back in to school resource personnel that then can take money and help kids and families in needs in our school system. Every association I think does a golf tournament. A couple of years ago, we still do the golf tournament, but we broke out this year and we do something called a kickball tournament. Wow. That has just become, it was super popular, and we had the Navy join us this year. They should have got the award for, most sportsman conduct. It was really fun to have the Navy join us. Yeah. And then next Friday, a week from tomorrow, we're doing our annual fundraiser gala auction fundraiser on December 9th. So if you just go to More for Kids, website, you'll see we have lots of great auction items. And the other huge thing about More for Kids, I just got to say every time I get the chance, so thanks for giving me the opportunity. We have this local business in town called Runner's Edge, and they donate shoes, runners, tennis shoes, and we have a closet here at the office. So school resource personnel that have needs for kids for shoes for tennis, basketball, whatever it is, they can come here and just get shoes. And it is such an amazing thing that this small business does that never wants recognition for it. But I'm here to say Runner's Edge. They rock.
Huge. That is huge.
Yeah.
Man, and the reason why, and I think many people may not know, but I've been in the schools for a long time, and the amount of need exceeds probably what you're even thinking. And so like that, it's so vital and so important. We used to have at my old school, we used to have a clothing shop, like basically kind of like a room where there's all these clothes and people could go in there and grab stuff if they wanted to. Students could go in there and grab stuff if they needed. But yeah, that's awesome. I'm so glad you guys are doing that. And I'm sure the community's grateful.
Yeah, it's so amazing when a school teacher comes in and has a need and we can just provide that. It's a feel-good thing of the day, I think, which, yeah. So this year, what we're doing for the annual dinner, which is kind of fun, we bought gingerbread houses and gave them out to the schools, and the school, like either in their home ec class or whatever, are building gingerbread houses, and that'll be the centerpieces for the dinner next week. We just got several back. I wish I could give a photo. I mean, they're super cool. The kids have done an amazing job.
That's dope. I like that. All right. Well, that's going to wrap up our conversation, but I have one more segment for you, and this one we didn't talk about. It's called Hot Take.
Hot Take.
So Hot Take. I'm going to give you two options, and basically what is your preference? And it's pretty simple. So are you ready for a hot take? I do this with all our guests.
I love it. Ready, go.
All right. Too hot or too cold?
Too cold.
Oh, really? Okay. Why too cold?
I live in Missoula, Montana. We just got 3 feet of snow. Just kidding. And it's going to be like 5 above. So I'm always just,
Yep. All right. Shoes or clothes?
Both.
Tough.
Shoes. If I had to pick one, shoes.
Yeah.
I think
it's hard. That was hard. Me too. All right. This isn't an either or, but it's like give your peanut butter and jelly ratio. Like, for example, I'm a 60% jelly, 40% butter kind of guy. Peanut butter.
My spouse will see this, so if I lie on this one, I'll be corrected. 100% jelly, no peanut butter.
What?
Yeah.
I've never, that's a first. I've never heard that one.
Almond butter. I mean, if you had almond butter, I would do 50-50, but otherwise 100% jelly.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Movie in or dinner out?
I don't remember the last time I went to a dinner, like to a movie theater. Dinner. Yeah.
That's why I say
dinner
movie in.
Yeah. Movie in. Probably lately it's been a lot of movie in.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. This is the last one. Life before 40 or after 40?
Life after 40. After 40 for sure. Yeah. Life just keeps getting better.
I agree. 100%. Like sometimes I look at it and just go, man, I'm so blessed. I'm so grateful. Like I get to talk to you. Like, you know what I mean? Like just the people I've met in my life. And I just would have never guessed. So yeah.
Well, I mean, I think if we were under 40, there might be a chance that we get to go to Mars, but I don't know.
Right. Well, congratulations on surviving Hot Take. But no, thank you.
Thank you. That was awesome.
Thank you for, I appreciate you jumping on and really coming on and sharing with us. So let people know how they can get in touch with you or how they can find you or whatever. This is your time.
Yeah. Check out MissoulaRealEstate.com. We have from an association perspective, we have an amazing housing report that we do virtual, and it's business intelligence data. But if you try to check me out on LinkedIn, Jim Bachand, There's about 20 of us out there or more, and we're all related. So just be careful. I'm the only one that probably lives in Missoula, so you're safe there. But yeah,
That's awesome.
Dave, thank you for the opportunity. This has been a lot of fun. Thoroughly enjoy it.
I enjoy the podcast, man. I enjoy bringing people.
Super cool.
You have a great story, and I think you're, obviously a very smart guy and a leader in our industry, and that's what we're trying to do is highlight people that are doing good stuff out there, and you're one of them. So,
thank you. Look forward to seeing you this next fall.
Oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I love coming to Missoula, and then bringing Ann with me is gonna be fun. So
yeah, it'll be awesome. We'll pick out a nice restaurant for the two of you.
It'll be fun.
Okay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, thank you for joining us for this conversation, and that'll wrap it up. And we'll be back next week with another episode of Inside Abode. Be safe and be easy, y'all. All right, see ya.